Yankees baseball is almost back. We're about a month away, not even from the start of the season. I'm very excited for this year, as I'm sure most of you are. It should be a good one. There's very high expectations and a lot of new faces. There's going to be a lot of position battles, of course, because we have a good amount of depth. So, of course, with a lot of depth comes a lot of competition. And basically, I'm going to go over what I think the projected lineups will be, the projected stats, and my prediction for the Yankees for this entire season. So let's get into this starting lineup here. Projected lineup, of course. We have Brett Garner leading off. He's been our leadoff man for a lot of years now. He does a good job of getting on base, working the count. Second, we have Aaron Judge, and some people are questioning this decision, but I think it's a good move because Aaron Judge, he works a lot of counts. I think he had the most 3-2 counts last year. He can get his walks, and he's a decent average hitter, so if you can get him on base in front of Stanton, Bird, Sanchez, I say, why not? Just have Judge hit there. After Judge, we have Giancarlo Stanton, who I think, you look at his stats last year and they were just monstrous, but I think he's going to have an even better year this year, and we'll get into that in the projections later. Greg Bird in the cleanup spot. It could be him, could be Gary, but I think having the righty is better suited for this lineup. So we have Gary at 5. We'll have a ton of RBI opportunities, most likely. Didi Gregorius is a 6 hitter, and just think about that. Didi as a 6 hitter, he's probably going to be a 2 or 3 hitter on most teams. Um, Brandon Drury, Aaron Hicks, and Andujar. I'm not really sure how those three will pan out, and even if Andujar is going to make the team as the starting third baseman, but we'll see. I believe as long as Andujar is playing like solid defense, that they'll give him the nod to start the year at third base, see how it goes, and then they'll bring up Gleyber Torres at some point and maybe put Drury at third, Torres at second, depending on Andujar, how he plays. So when it comes to our bench, we have some pretty solid options. You have Ellsbury and Torres, who are consistent hitters. Guys like Gleyber, who I mentioned, and Clint Frazier, Tyler Wade, are young guys, and I expect to see them at some point this year. Whether it's to start the season or in the middle of the year. Tyler Austin, we haven't really seen him play like a full season yet. He's shown some flashes. If Greg Burr goes down, I think Austin's going to have like a pretty big role. And then Austin Romine behind Gary, who, you don't really expect much from Romine, but if Gary struggles defensively, they may have to play him more than planned, but I think Gary's going to get his defensive issues figured out, so hopefully that won't be an issue. As for starting rotation, I would believe 4 of these spots are locked up, regardless of spring training play. Montgomery's spot is not exactly secure. They might try Chad Green as a starter. I'm not really sure if that's going to happen. I predict he'll be in the bullpen, but I don't know how the Yankees are going to play that one out. Montgomery was pretty solid for us last year as a rookie, so I would give him the shot to open up the season. Sonny Gray, CC, Tanaka, and of course Luis Severino. It's definitely not a bad rotation, but I do have my concerns. I mean, we only saw one great year out of Severino. Tanaka was off last year. He was inconsistent. CC's like 37 and has knee issues. Sonny Gray has not pitched a full year in New York yet, so we'll see about that. And the 5th spot is really up for grabs at this point. So hopefully it won't be much of an issue. I wish they added a veteran arm, but we haven't seen that yet. But with the way free agency's going right now, they could add someone like by tomorrow, so who knows. I'm pretty sure like Lance Lynn and Alex Cobb are still sitting out there as free agents, so I would love for Cashman to take a shot on one of those guys. You can get them for 1 year, but the Yankees seem content with what they have as pitching wise right now. But I assume they'll trade for a starter at the trade deadline in July if everything goes as planned and as long as we're competitive. So I guess we'll cross that bridge in the future. As we get into the bullpen, I'm pretty excited for this part of this team. Chapman and Betances came off pretty down years last year for their standards, at least. They still have good numbers overall, but you expect better. Betances needs to locate his fastball, obviously. I hope he fixed that. And I think Chapman faced some confidence issues, but once he got his swagger back towards the end of the year, he was the same old Chapman. David Robertson and Canely, who came over in the Todd Frazier trade, they were excellent for us. And then Chad Green was virtually unhittable. He had a .74 whip, which is unbelievable. So I think finding a role for Chad Green in the bullpen would be the right move, but I don't know how Aaron Boone's going to play that one out, so we'll see. But I'm pretty confident in this bullpen, and as long as they stay healthy, it should be fine. And if you're looking for a dark horse in the Yankees bullpen, my guess would be Ben Heller. We saw him pitch, I think, like 11 innings or something last year, but his stuff looked really good, and he has promising ability. He was acquired in the Andrew Miller trade a couple seasons ago. So if he gets a spot with us, I think he can showcase what he has and be a big part of our bullpen. So we'll see. Now on to projections that I came up with, and I try to be as realistic as possible with these. I don't want to be like that guy who was like, "Yo, Stan's gonna hit 70 home runs this year." I was trying to keep it real, but we start with Brett Gardner, who should obviously be our everyday left fielder. He's been doing it for a long time. I mean, I think he's the only Yankee who's played in the old stadium left on the roster at this point, so he's been around for a while. Gardner, we know what to expect. He'll hit 260, 270s. I think he cracked 20 home runs last year. I would like to see him reach 100 runs and steal 30 bases. That would be great. With the lineup he has behind him, I think 100 runs is possible, and getting on base a lot. And Aaron Boone being aggressive on the bases should let Gardner have a chance of getting 30 steals. Backing up Brett, he's listed as a left fielder, but I'm pretty sure he wants to try and play center this year. Is Clint Frazier, and I'm not sure if he'll make the big league roster to start the year, but he's one of the best prospects, or at least was one of the best prospects when we traded for him. I think he came from the Indians in the Andrew Miller trade. I think he'll start some games in center this year because, as I said, I don't think Aaron Hicks is that durable. He ends up getting hurt, and I'm not sure if he'll even hit that well for us. But I think Frazier will find himself in the big leagues for a decent stretch, and I project him to get 150 at bats, hit 250, 7 home runs. I think he could be a big piece for this team, or he could do nothing. It's really a wild card pick. We saw Clint play for a little bit last year, and we saw some good stuff, and we also saw some really stupid stuff, immature stuff. But he's a very talented player, and if he puts it all together, he should have no problem being like a 280, 30 home run hitter by the time he reaches his prime. But I'm pretty sure it's Gardner's last year on his contract, so I'm sure the Yankees will let him play it out, and Gardner will do his thing, and Clint will hopefully be in the minors and tearing it up, and they'll have a tough decision to make once the middle of the season comes around. But we'll see what happens with that. In center field, we have the man I just mentioned, Aaron Hicks. Hicks, he's a really good defender, has an amazing arm, but I'm not sure if his average will get it done for this team, and his health's an issue as well. It's nice knowing we have Jacoby Ellsbury back there, who I'm sure a lot of fans aren't a big fan of because he takes up a lot of our salary. But I think Ellsbury is still a pretty good player at this point. It's just the contract that makes him look bad. He had a really good second half for us, but I think Hicks will definitely start the year as the center fielder. He may get hurt, he may have a bad performance, and eventually give his job up to Ellsbury or Clint Frazier. I wouldn't be surprised if that would happen. So as of now, it's Hicks, and it's his job to keep. So we'll see what happens, but he'll have Ellsbury and Frazier probably breathing down his neck for the entire year. As for the predictions, I said I think Hicks will definitely end up splitting time with either Ellsbury or Frazier, and I think Jacoby's going to be a better player than we expect him to be, whether it's a key pinch runner. I think he's going to be a huge postseason player for us if he's able to stay healthy. So I'm not sleeping on Jacoby. I think he's going to be a big part of this team. Now in right field, the greatest tandem of all time. Find me a better right field. I dare you. Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton, of course. It's expected that Judge will play defensively and right, and Stanton will DH, which I'm totally cool with. But when it comes to hitting, so for Aaron Judge, we saw him struggle a lot last year towards the end of the year. Couldn't really hit the breaking ball, so if he fixed that, he should be fine, but I'm not really sure. I think pitchers kind of figured him out last year, and I think he'll still have a really good year. As you see, I had him for 42 home runs, just under 100 RBIs, but I think he'll decline a bit, and it's really hard to match a rookie season of like 52 home runs or whatever he had. Overall, Judge is probably still going to be a stud and one of the top 10 players in baseball. I'm just like limiting my expectations, and I'm trying to be as realistic as possible. On the Giancarlo Stanton now. Now this is a guy who I think is going to put up better numbers than he did last year. Last year he hit 59 home runs. I think this year he can reach 62. So if you think about it, he played in Miami, which is one of the biggest and ugliest, if I may add, ballparks in the league. And if you put him in Yankee Stadium, which is just a really small ballpark, I don't know how else to say it. A lot of those Giancarlo Stanton flyouts to in Marlins Park are going to translate to home runs in Yankee Stadium. So I think it could be even more than 62. And that's if Giancarlo gets his at bats. I have him slated for 550, which hopefully he can get to. But if he does, I think over 60 home runs is definitely a possibility for him. So for the predictions, yes, I expect Judge to decline a bit from last year. I really hope I'm wrong with that. I hope he does even better than he did last year. And Giancarlo Stanton, I honestly think he'll be the AL MVP at the end of the year. I think he'll have a crazy year. He'll thrive in New York. He seems like a New York kind of guy who likes the spotlight and whatnot. So he'll have a career year, in my opinion. And if he does that, we'll be in good shape. So hopefully that comes true. So at third base to start the year, I have Miguel Andujar starting. And this is all for opening day, by the way, all these starting lineups. I think Torres is going to start in the minors because it just makes the most sense. There's that stupid rule in the MLB where, like, if a minor league player starts the year, he like loses a year on his contract or something. So if the Yankees keep Glaber in the minors for like a month or so, they get another year of eligibility for his contract. So it just makes the most sense. So as for these two as players, they're both very young guys. And, it can go either way. They can either come up and set the world on fire or they can come up and be horrible. But I expect them both to have some bright moments and have some bad moments as well, I think. And Duhar is going to have a decent average and show some pop, and he'll play most games starting at third base as long as his defense is up to par. And Torres, I hope, can get, between like 100, 200 at bats and just get a taste of the majors. He's like 20, 21 years old, I believe, so there's really no point in rushing him. But if he's playing well and he's killing it, then, keep him in the lineup and we'll see what happens. But I think he'll spend about half the year in the minors, half in the majors. And if Van Hart can hit and play defense, he'll be the main third baseman. That's how it should be, at least. At shortstop, we have the man Didi Gregorius, who kind of broke out for us last year and missed the first month, and just he killed it. I do expect him to kind of stay where he's at. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Didi like went to hit 300 with like 30 home runs. I mean, that's kind of asking for a lot, but if he did it and seeing the improvements he's made the last 3 years, it would not shock me by any means. I honestly think he'll go out and win the Gold Glove at shortstop. He makes really good plays defensively, crazy plays, but has to be a little bit more consistent to be in that Gold Glove conversation, which I think he could do. And as for Torres, he's a very solid backup. He hit like 280 last year, and that's where I projected him again, somewhere around there. But I think he'll get overshadowed by Brandon Drury, who I'm a big fan of. And unless Didi gets hurt or Drury gets hurt or something like that, I don't really expect Torres to have a solidified role on this team. And if Torres was traded or cut, I would not be shocked either. So for him, it can go either way. But he's a good, nice guy to have around. The team seems to love him. So if we can keep him, that'd be great. And as for Didi, if he improves, awesome. But I think he'll be where he was at last year and maybe improve defensively a little more. So now on the second base, and this one's a tricky one because I feel like this can go like four different ways. So we have Brandon Drury, who I think will start as the opening day second baseman. There's Tyler Wade, who's young, he's quick, and apparently worked out with Albert Pujols or something over the offseason. I don't really know what that means, but we'll see if that translates. There's Danny Espinoza, who is not like guaranteed to make the team. So we'll see what he does. And then there's Ronald Torres, who I just mentioned. So there's four guys, but I think Drury, who's 25 years old, we just traded for him a couple weeks ago, and I was really happy when Cashman made this move. I always liked Drury. I've seen him play in Arizona a lot. I think he's an underrated player. And, he didn't improve last year, but I think, changing a team or something can obviously hype a player up. And, I think Drury can be a big piece of this team. A 270, 16 home runs, 60 RBI a season from your second baseman is not bad. And obviously, we're not going to get like Robbie Cano type numbers out of the second base spot. But I still think we can have Drury and maybe another guy filling behind him, and we can, make up for some of that. So I'm really interested to see what happens with second base, and I even forgot to mention Gleyber Torres who can play there. So there's like really five guys who can get that spot. So it'll be interesting. I think Drury's gonna get it and hopefully keep it because I think he'll play well. But we'll have to see. It's no guarantee. And whoever gets that job has to watch their back as though people breathing down their neck as well. For first base, it should be no question that that's Greg Bird's job. I don't think Tyler Austin is really much of a threat. I don't think Austin will get much playing time unless, Bird's going to have a lot of off days. I'm not sure how they'll play that with his injury history. And if Bird were to go down, I think Austin will get a lot of playing time. But even if he did, I think they would trade for another first baseman. You can't really rely on a guy like him to man the position himself. But as for Bird, we just need him to stay healthy. I hope he can get over like 130 games played. And if he does that, I think his power numbers should be fine. It could be really good. I think he could hit somewhere between 30 and 40 home runs with ease. And his average, I expect to be around like 230 to 250, that kind of area. They should play the shift on him, so we'll see what happens. But if Bird stays healthy, I expect big things, and I really hope that's the case this year for him. At catcher, we have what seems to be the forgotten man and like one of my favorite Yankees, Gary Sanchez. With all the hype around Judge and Stanton, Gary Sanchez's name isn't really thrown around as much. Sanchez did have some problems defensively last year with blocking balls. It was mostly Jaime Garcia's curveball that seemed to give him a lot of problems, and he's gone. So hopefully he'll be a lot better. Behind him, we have Austin Romine, who he was pretty solid in the beginning of the year, and his hitting stopped at the second half of the year. But Romine's been a solid defender for us, so there's not much to say about him. But as for Sanchez, I think he'll improve on his average a little bit, but I don't know if he'll hit a bunch of home runs. I think 27 might be a little low, but what Sanchez has to worry about is just hitting the all fields and just being a good hitter overall. I don't think he has to worry about hitting 40 home runs or so, which I think he could do easily, but that shouldn't be his main concern. I think just being a good hitter should be Gary's main thing, and improving defensively as well. He has a good arm behind the plate, so he should be fine. I think Gary's gonna have a really good year. Not power wise, but I think just being a contributor for this team will be very important. And for Roman, there's not much to say. So pretty much all I said was he doesn't start a brawl this year. So I'm sure most of you remember the Miguel Cabrera fight, and I saw those two staring each other down in spring training the other day. So don't know if that prediction will come true if they see each other, but we'll see. And hopefully Gary puts it all together and has an MVP-like year. On to our starting rotation. Of course, we have Luis Severino as our ace. He had a breakout year last year that really no one saw coming. And I expect him to be around the same numbers, maybe a little more wins because the team is better, improve a little on the strikeouts, and I expect him to be great overall. If he has an even better year than last year, I would not be surprised. He's only like 24 or something like that, so I think he'll be great. Tanaka was a little inconsistent last year. His ERA was in the high fours, so we definitely expect better, and we've seen him do better. So I think he'll bounce back and be a little more consistent, which is what we need. So I think around a 3.5 ERA is what he'll give us. As for CC, he was incredible for us last year. He learned how to pitch, and he spent like 3 years struggling once he lost his fastball velocity, but he really figured out how to pitch, and it was fun to watch because you see these guys with overpowering stuff and all that, but you watch a guy like Sabathia in his later years, and he has to paint the corners and just pitch his beautiful game. So I love watching him. I hope he can stay healthy, and hopefully his knee holds up for him. I do expect this to be his last year, and hopefully ride off into the sunset as a champion again. But we'll see. Next we have Sonny Gray, who's been overlooked. He was good for the A's. He was their ace for a few years, and I expect him to have a pretty above average year, like a 3.4 ERA somewhere around there. If healthy, he'll be a solid player for us. And for Jordan Montgomery, I'm not sure if we'll spend the whole year as a starter, but I think he'll be pretty solid regardless. And whoever our fifth starter is, I'm sure we'll make it work. Whether we have to rely on Jordan Montgomery or Chad Green or go out and sign someone, I'm sure that this team will make it work. Now for our bullpen, I picked pretty much the five main guys, and of course we have Chapman closing, D-Rob, Betances, Canely, and Chad Green, who were all pretty good last year. And as I said, Chapman and Betances were a bit off. Hopefully they can find their locations, and Robertson needs to do literally what he did last year, just do exactly the same thing. He was so reliable. Canely, I think he'll take a step back a bit, but I think he'll still be a really solid reliever. Chad Green, as I said, I hope he stays in the bullpen and they find him some kind of role. I think Green's going to be used as like, Andrew Miller is for the Indians with Francona. And I think he'll come in like really important spots. It doesn't matter what it is or what time of the game it is, and he has to get like the most important out. Like say you have like a cleanup hitter up with guys on second and third, and you're up by a run. I think Chad Green is going to be like that go-to guy. So I think that role will be great for him, and I'm excited for this bullpen. They have a lot of fun guys to watch, and just a lot of nasty stuff. So I think they'll be fine, and as long as Betances, who is like the wild card of this bullpen, as long as he's right, this bullpen should be absolutely fine and should be dominant by all means. Now, for my final record prediction, I say 94 and 68, and I'm not really gonna dive into like the playoffs because that's like impossible to predict, which is what makes baseball so great. It's not like the NBA where you just throw a bunch of good guys on one team and they're gonna go to the finals. You really have to work for it in baseball. And the Yankees won 91 last year. I say they improved by a few games, and yeah, I may be lowballing it a bit, but with teams like this that are just the expectations are so high, sometimes they don't live up to it right away. And if the Yankees come out the gate struggling, I wouldn't be too surprised, but I wouldn't be too concerned either because I think there will be a point where this team figures it out. And I think Brian Cashman did an exceptional job of putting together a good product out there, and I hope that they can make it work. So I'm really excited for the Yankees this year. With all that being said, the chase for 28 is officially on. It's been 9 long years without a World Series title for us, and if any team could do it, it's this one. This is a great team. It should be a special team, and it should be a fun team. So I'll probably do more videos about the Yankees during the season, probably like a month by month reaction thing, and we'll just see how that goes. So until next time, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you around.